Beyond order. Well, to be honest, I thought I would be much more excited about reading this book, but I just finished 12 Rules for Life, and it was very hard to listen to. 1 hour in, listen to the book. So far, it's pretty similar to 12 Rules for Life. Even this first rule, dealing with social institutions. But I'm more interested in the second rule, which I just checked.
Imagine who you could be, and then aim single-mindedly at that.
Well, I like the phrase single-mindedly, and this is exactly what I'm doing right now. I have my dreams, I have the things that I want to push myself towards. So I was looking maybe to hear some motivational talk about, find what you want and go wholeheartedly, like you said, single-mindedly. and it wasn't this motivational thing that I guess sort of wanted. Halfway through listening to the book, in a similar way to his previous book, he sometimes goes on and on about biblical references. I think a little bit less. I don't rewind trying to understand what he said. I just let go and listen. If I don't get it, I just don't get it. And so sometimes I like the rule, but when I start listening to this specific section, I lose him completely. Sometimes he does give some stories from his own clients. So then it sort of gets me. So I actually listen to the story. I'm actually interested what happened to this client, what did he do with them. So that's interesting. Rule number 4 was nice. It talks about responsibility. I really like that. It reminds me of the first habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people, which is be proactive.
Rule 7. Work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens.
I like that, sort of a baby step. But then again, sometimes I read the rule, I'm excited about the rule, and then I start listening and I'm losing him quite fast. But now I dove in and I actually want to just understand one paragraph. And to be honest, I don't really see the connection, or I'm missing something.
Although Christ commits many acts that might be considered revolutionary, as we discussed in Rule 1, he is nonetheless explicitly portrayed in the Gospels as the master of tradition, and says of himself, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." Matthew 5:17, KJV. The New International Version of the Bible perhaps puts it more comprehensively. "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." Christ therefore presents himself as both the product of tradition and the very thing that creates and transforms it. It is the personality who mimics that model who might be regarded as truly Western in the deepest of psychological senses. If you work as hard as you can on one thing, you will change.
I find it really hard to relate and also actually get the message. I actually didn't get the message here. And then he sort of jumps to the conclusion, which I really like. If you work as hard as you can, know on one thing, you will change. I don't know, I'm not a Christian and I actually lack a lot of knowledge there. And I accidentally started listening to the same chapter. It took me, I think, 20 minutes to actually get it. Now Rule 8 about keeping your apartment clean and organized, which is a good reminder for me. He says one thing and I'm with him 100%. Yes, organize your house, have clarity, and very good reminder. And then he said, as it said in Matthew, and then he just gives quotes from the New Testament. For me personally, it's a little bit of a turn-off. Like, why do you need to mention it all the time? I don't really care what is written in the New Testament. First time I actually laughed reading the book.
The biblical Hebrew phrase, tohu wabohu.
Tohu vavohu. Well, these are Hebrew words that Jordan Peterson just mentioned, and I speak Hebrew. This is my native language, and I didn't get it. He says the word and what? Rule 9, I actually listened intently for 50 minutes. I was very curious because he shared some very interesting examples of his clients, full stories from beginning to end, and I was actually curious. I was entertained. There was some even element of suspense. I actually wanted to see what the problems they had and how he dealt with it and how did he find. Very nice. And then the last 10 minutes, he just went. I hoped he wasn't gonna bring the Bible and Christianity again. I really hoped, but he did. So I just finished listening to the full book, 13 hours. Some of the rules were pretty similar to the previous 12 rules in his previous book, even though the titles are not the same. One said, do not carelessly designate social institutes, and the other one, stand up straight with your shoulder back. In both rules, he talks a lot about status and dominance in social environments. So the contents were very similar. For me, these rules were a bit confusing at times, like rule number 8, try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. I thought it was referencing to his idea about organize your apartment or organize your room, which is like a one step of self-discipline. So I was thinking he was talking about that, but then in the rule he was actually talking about art. I don't care if I have art on the walls. You see any art? To be honest, after listening to the first book for 15 hours, I started actually ignoring some parts. It was like a trigger. Whenever he mentioned Christ, Christianity, religion, I was sort of shutting my brain, talking about Christianity, Buddhism, and it's not that I don't care. I actually spent 26 days on a Vipassana retreat in a Buddhist temple, saying the prayers and everything. I was there to practice what they do. But when I got this book, I didn't want to learn about Buddhism, and sometimes I actually didn't see the connection between the religious references and the rules. I'm not knowledgeable in religion, and in order to actually understand what he was saying, I needed to put a lot of effort to figure out where's the connection. So in most cases, I didn't get it, and at some point, I just sort of let go. Some of the negative reviews said that it's like a sermon. So when I think about sermons, I think about T.D. Jakes. I really like him. So I was listening to his motivational videos and speeches on YouTube, and I just found out a few days ago that he released a new book. Best part in the book for me, rule number 10, also a lot of knowledge and a lot of power. He actually shares ideas, techniques, and how-tos to negotiate, but not only with your partner, also with yourself, and not necessarily in a romantic relationship. So even though he talks about romantic relationships, it's applicable to any relationship. I think this book has a lot of knowledge and also practical information, which I consider keys to power. Not all the rules gave me specifically more knowledge beside the rule itself. Sometimes the rule itself was a bit confusing for me. I actually didn't get it. In order to understand, for me, in order to understand the analogies and the references that he made from the rules to the religion, I actually needed to put a lot of effort because I lack knowledge in religion, so I need to listen much more intently, put in much more effort to actually understand what he's trying to say. So for me, the knowledge is not necessarily in each rule. It's like, I don't think he actually has these 24 rules for life. This is not like his 10 commandments. Me mentioning the Bible. But it doesn't mean that I don't have knowledge and power extracting from this book. Either way, knowledge versus power, Jordan Peterson, 12 more rules for life, a lot of knowledge, and also some practical things that you can do. Just a second. A lot of knowledge and also power. See you in the next review.